The first time I saw her trying on a wedding dress, I almost laughed because it felt like a cruel joke the universe was playing on me. And yet, in the same breath, I wanted to cry. Her name is Emily Carter. 28, perfect smile, perfect family, perfect future. Except for one small detail, she is in love with me. And I, against every rule of sanity, am in love with her. You see, America likes to paint love in neat pictures. White dress, sparkling diamond ring, happy couple walking down the aisle. But real love? Real love is messy, dangerous, and sometimes hidden under layers of fear. And in Emily's case, it's hidden under a veil she never wanted to wear. I remember the day she told me about the engagement. We were sitting on a rooftop in Brooklyn, wine glasses in hand, the city humming beneath us like it always did. She didn't look at me when she said it. She just stared at the skyline, her voice low, as if the wind could carry the words away. Mark proposed, she whispered. For a moment I thought she was joking. Emily loved her sarcastic one-liners, her cruel little jokes that always made me groan and laugh at the same time. But when she finally turned to me, her eyes were glassy, her lips trembling. I felt something inside me crack open like ice breaking on a river. Mark, the golden boy. A Wall Street lawyer with a jawline sculpted by God himself. Every parent's dream, every magazine's fantasy. And apparently Emily's fiancé. Except he wasn't. Not really. Because for years Emily and I had been circling each other like moths around a flame. It started in college, when she shared her notes with me in philosophy class and accidentally brushed my hand. It continued with late-night study sessions, too much caffeine, and long walks where our fingers brushed a little too long to be just friends. And then one night, God, I'll never forget it, two kissed. Drunk, reckless, laughing until our lips found each other. It should have been a mistake. But it wasn't. It was the only thing that ever felt right. Still, Emily was afraid. Afraid of her parents, her church, her community. Afraid of what it would mean to love me in a world that told her she couldn't. So she built a life of safety. A life with Mark. And I was left with the scrap-stolen moments, lingering touches, eyes that said everything her lips were too scared to admit. The night after she told me about the engagement, I walked home through Manhattan, drunk on cheap whiskey and heartbreak. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to cut her out of my life, erase her like a name in sand. But how do you hate the only person who makes your heart feel alive? That week Emily avoided me. She stopped replying to my texts, stopped coming over for our Friday night movie tradition. My apartment felt like a tomb without her laughter. I told myself I would move on, that I would find someone else, someone who wasn't already halfway to the altar. But then one rainy afternoon she showed up at my door. Her hair was drenched, her makeup smeared, her hands shaking. I can't do this, she whispered before I could even speak. I pulled her inside, wrapped her in a blanket, and for a long time we just sat there, listening to the rain pound against the windows. I love him, she said finally, her voice cracking, but not the way I love you. I froze. My heart raced, my body trembled, and for the first time in months I let myself believe. Then don't marry him, I said, my voice low, almost pleading. Her eyes filled with tears. It's not that simple. Of course it wasn't. It never was. That night we kissed again. Not drunk, not reckless this time, it was desperate, raw, the kind of kiss that sets your soul on fire and burns everything else to ash. I thought it meant something. I thought it was the beginning of the end for her and Mark. But the next morning she was gone. A week later, I got the wedding invitation in the mail. And that's how I found myself standing outside a church in upstate New York, on the day Emily Carter was supposed to become Mrs. Mark Sullivan. The bells were already ringing. Guests in polished suits and pastel dresses floated past me like shadows. And I, dressed in black like I was attending a funeral, couldn't move. Because that's what it felt like, burying the only love I'd ever known. But here's the thing about love, it doesn't like being buried. It claws its way out, screaming, demanding to be seen. And that's exactly what it did. Inside that church, as Emily stood before Mark, veil trembling, lips about to form vows she didn't believe in, her eyes searched the crowd. And when they landed on me, something shifted. Her hands shook. Her voice faltered. And in that silence, the kind of silence that makes the world hold its breath, I realized the truth. Emily Carter wasn't marrying Mark. Not today. Not ever. Because her heart was already mine. The church air was thick, heavy with roses and perfume. as if someone thought that drowning a room in beauty could disguise the ugliness underneath. I sat there, every muscle in my body screaming at me to run. But my eyes were locked on Heron Emily. She looked like an angel. That dress clung to her curves like it had been stitched by God himself. The veil softened her features, but not enough to hide the tremor in her lips or the storm in her eyes. When the pastor asked if she would take Mark to be her husband, the world seemed to stop spinning. Her lips parted. Her gaze swept over the sea of faces, desperate, searching, and then it landed on me. In that instant, the church wasn't full of people. There was no priest, no family, no Mark. There was only Emily and me, caught in a secret that threatened to explode. I shook my head almost imperceptibly. Don't. Please don't. Her chest rose and fell. Mark squeezed her hand like a warning. And then God help Mesh whispered. I can't. Gasps echoed through the pews. Mark's face twisted, red with humiliation and rage. Her mother clutched her pearls. The pastor blinked like he'd been slapped. And Emily ran. Not down the aisle with grace. Not into the arms of a new future. She just bolted, grabbing her dress, stumbling past horrified guests, her veil falling to the floor. And I, without thinking, followed. We tore out of that church like fugitives, wedding bells clanging mockingly behind us. She was crying, her mascara streaming down her face, but when I caught her arm outside, she laughed through the tears. Jesus, I just ruined my entire life, she said, breathless. No, I told her, cupping her face. You just saved it. And then, in the middle of the church steps, in front of God and whoever else was watching, we kissed. For one brief, reckless moment, the world stopped judging. There was no Mark, no family, no future waiting to collapse around us. Just Emily. Just me. But reality, cruel as ever, snapped back. Her father stormed out, his face purple with fury. Emily, get back inside right now. Mark followed, his fists clenched, his voice a guttural growl. What the hell is this, Emily? Who the hell is she? The whispers grew into a roar, the crowd closing in like vultures. My heart pounded. Emily trembled in my arms. And then she made the bravest choice of her life. She's the one I love, Emily said, her voice shaking but clear. Not you. Not anyone else. Just her. The silence that followed was deafening. Mark's face crumbled, fury giving way to humiliation. He spat something I didn't catch, shoved past us, and disappeared into the church. Her father cursed under his breath. Her mother fainted dramatically into the arms of some distant cousin. And Emily just gripped my hand like it was the only thing keeping her alive. We didn't stay to watch the fallout. We ran. Through the parking lot. Through the small town streets where gossip traveled faster than light. We drove with the windows down. Wedding dress spilling across my passenger seat. Laughter and tears spilling out of us both. Hours later, we ended up in a cheap motel off the highway. The kind with flickering neon signs and a faint smell of cigarette smoke. Hardly the setting for a love story. But when Emily collapsed onto the bed, kicking off her heels and burying her face into the pillow, I thought she had never looked more beautiful. I can't believe I did that, she whispered, muffled by the pillow. You did it because you're brave, I said. She lifted her head, mascara smeared, hair tangled, eyes red, and somehow she still glowed. No. I did it because of you. That night we made love. Not hurried, not guilty, not stolen like before. It was slow, tender, the kind of love that feels like home. I traced the scars of her fears with my fingertips, kissed the places she thought no one could ever love, and whispered the promises she had been too afraid to believe. For the first time, Emily allowed herself to be wholly mine. But as dawn broke, reality tapped its cruel fingers against the window again. Emily's phone buzzed relentlessly, calls from her parents, from Mark, from numbers I didn't recognize. She turned it off, but I could see the weight pressing down on her. They're going to hate me, she said quietly. Then let them, I replied. As long as you don't hate yourself. Her eyes filled with tears again. You don't understand. My familial cut me off. My job. My friends. My entire life is built around people who won't accept this. Won't accept us. The truth hit me like ice. She wasn't wrong. America pretends to be free, but in small towns, in tight-knit communities, love like ours is still a scandal. Still a betrayal. And Emily was about to pay the price. The next week was hell. The story spread everywhere. Her family stopped speaking to her. She was suspended from her job at the law firm until further notice. Mark's friends smeared her online, painting me as some predatory homewrecker who ruined a perfect love story. We hid in my apartment, surviving on takeout and the faint comfort of each other's arms. At night, Emily cried herself to sleep. During the day, I tried to be strong, even when fear gnawed at me. One evening, she sat by the window, staring out at the city. "Maybe we made a mistake," she whispered. The words stabbed me. "You don't mean that." I don't know if I can handle this," she said, her voice trembling. "The pressure, the hate, everyone turning on me." I crossed the room, kneeling before her. "Emily, listen to me. What we have it's real. It's worth fighting for. You've spent your whole life trying to please everyone else. For once, please yourself." She met my eyes, broken but hopeful. "And if I lose everything? Then you'll still have me," I said. "And I swear, I'll make that enough." She kissed me then, desperate and trembling like a drowning woman clinging to air. And I realized something terrifying. Love wasn't going to save us. We were going to have to save love. The first storm after the wedding that never was came in the form of headlines. Runaway bride leaves fiancé at the altar. Promising attorney Emily Carter throws away future for forbidden love. Wall Street golden boy humiliated as bride runs off with another woman. Every paper, every gossip blog, every cheap news site had her face splashed across the front page. The photo that went viral was the one of us on the church steps, my hands cupping her face, her veil falling away as we kissed. A kiss that for us was salvation but to the world was scandal. Emily turned off her phone, shut down her social media, but the noise seeped in anyway. Even walking to the corner store felt dangerous. Strangers stared too long. Someone spat at us once. Another time, a group of men shouted slurs across the street. And I hated watching Emily shrink under the weight of their judgment. We tried to pretend for a while. We cooked dinner together, danced barefoot in my living room, laughed about stupid sitcoms. But the shadows were always there. She had lost her family, her career, her reputation, all in the span of one reckless, honest choice. One night, I woke up to find her sitting on the bathroom floor, knees pulled to her chest, her engagement ring, the one she never returned, clutched in her palm. "I ruined everything," she whispered when she saw me. I knelt beside her, gently prying the ring from her fingers. "No. You ruined their illusion. That's not the same thing." She shook her head. "You don't get it. My dad won't even look at me. My mom says I'm sick. My firm already replaced me. And Mark." She swallowed hard. "Mark called. He said he forgives me if I'll come back." The words hung between us like a death sentence. My throat tightened. "And do you want that?" Her silence was the longest, coldest thing I've ever lived through. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know what I want." That night, we didn't sleep together. She curled away from me, her back a wall I couldn't climb. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if love alone could really carry the weight of a world that wanted us apart. Days passed. Weeks. The whispers grew quieter, but never disappeared. Emily went to therapy. I picked up more hours at the bar where I worked. We moved through life like two women fighting to stay above water. And then, one evening, something shifted. We were walking through Central Park, the leaves crisp under our boots, the air sharp with the bite of early winter. Emily's hands were buried in her coat pockets, her eyes on the ground. "I got an offer," she said suddenly. I stopped. "An offer?" She nodded. "A firm in San Francisco. They don't care about the scandal. They just want me for my work." For a moment, hope lit in my chest. "That's incredible." Her lips trembled. "It means leaving New York. Leaving everything. Starting over." I searched her face. "And do you want me to come with you?" Her silence was brutal. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. "I don't want you to give up your life for me." Anger flared hot in my chest. "Emily, I already did. The second I kissed you, the second I followed you out of that church, I gave up the safe life I could have had. Don't you dare act like this is only your burden." She flinched, tears brimming. "I don't want to destroy you too." "Destroy me?" I grabbed her hand, forcing her to meet my eyes. "You saved me. You're the only thing in my life that feels real." For the first time in weeks, I saw fire in her again. She kissed me hard, fierce, right there on the park path while joggers and tourists stared. And I knew in that moment no city, no distance, no storm could break us. 2 months later, we packed our lives into cardboard boxes and boarded a plane west. San Francisco was different. A city where no one knew our names, where we could walk hand in hand without fear of someone recognizing us. Emily started at her new firm. I found a bartending job in the Mission District. We rented a tiny apartment with peeling paint and a view of the bay if you craned your neck just right. And slowly, painfully, we learned how to breathe again. But healing isn't a straight line. There were nights Emily woke up screaming, dreams of her father's disgust and Mark's fury haunting her. Days when I questioned if she regretted everything, if she secretly longed for the safety she had lost. Once, after a brutal day at work, she came home, dropped her briefcase and said, "Sometimes I wish I had just married him." The words stabbed like knives. But before I could speak, she collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "I don't mean it. I swear I don't mean it. I'm so tired." And I held her. That's all I could do. Because love isn't about always saying the right thing. It's about holding on even when the words cut deep. Months turned into a year. We built a rhythm. Lazy Sundays at the farmer's market. Midnight drives along the coast. Fights about laundry, about bills, about stupid little things that couples fight about when they know they're in it for the long haul. One spring afternoon, we hiked to the cliffs overlooking the Pacific. The ocean roared beneath us, endless and wild. Emily slipped her hand into mine, her eyes shining with something I hadn't seen in her for a long time. Peace. "I used to think love was about doing what was expected of me," she said softly. "The right man, the right wedding, the right life. But then I met you." My throat ached. "And what am I?" She smiled through tears. "You're the first choice I ever made for myself." And there, with the sea spray on our faces and the horizon stretching wide, she kissed me. Not desperate, not guilty, just free. For the first time I believed it, we were going to be okay. San Francisco taught us how to start over. But starting over didn't mean erasing the past, it meant learning to live with it. Emily still got phone calls from unknown numbers. Sometimes it was her father, sometimes her mother, mostly silence on the other end. She'd hang up quickly, pretending it didn't bother her, but at night I'd feel her body tense against mine. She missed them, even if she hated herself for missing them. I, on the other hand, had made peace with losing. My family had never cared who I loved. My friends thought our love story was something ripped out of a novel. But Emily, she had walked away from everything. I never forgot that. One evening, as the fog rolled heavy over the bay, we sat on the fire escape with mugs of cheap wine. Emily leaned her head against my shoulder. "Do you ever wonder if it was worth it?" she asked. I turned to look at her. "Every day. And every day the answer is yes." She smiled faintly, but I saw the doubt in her eyes. That's the thing about love, it doesn't erase scars. Just makes them easier to bear. The final test came a year later. Emily's sister reached out. A simple email: "Mom's sick. Come home if you want to see her." Emily stared at the screen for hours. "I can't," she whispered. "They'll hate me. They'll hate us." "Maybe," I said carefully. "But maybe they'll also remember that you're their daughter before you're anyone's scandal." She bit her lip. "Would you come with me?" "Of course," I said without hesitation. And so we flew back to New York. Back to the small town that had branded us traitors. Back to the people who once tried to bury us. Walking into that hospital room was like walking into a war zone. Her mother was frail, pale against the white sheets. Her father stood stiff by the window, jaw clenched. When he saw me, his eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Emily stepped forward, voice trembling. "Hi, Mom." For a moment, silence. Then her mother's lips quivered. "You look older." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't acceptance. But it was something. We stayed for 3 days. 3 long, heavy days where Emily tried to mend the pieces of her broken family. Her father barely spoke. Her mother softened little by little. And when we left, she pressed Emily's hand weakly and whispered, "Be happy." It was more than we expected. It was enough. Back in San Francisco, life felt lighter. Emily walked differently, like the weight on her chest had eased. I caught her humming sometimes while making coffee, a sound I hadn't heard in years. One night after a long day, I came home to find candles lit all over the apartment. Emily stood in the middle of the room, barefoot, hair loose, holding a tiny velvet box. My breath caught. "Emily," she smiled nervously. "Don't look at me like that. I'm terrified." I laughed, my hands shaking. "You're really doing this?" She opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band. No diamonds, no extravagance, just something real. "I don't want a church," she said softly. "I don't want white dresses or vows I don't believe in. I don't want anyone else's approval. I just want you. Forever if you'll have me." Tears blurred my vision. "Emily Carter, I've already had you since the first time you kissed me in college." She slipped the ring onto my finger, and I kissed her like the world was brand new. We didn't have a big wedding. Just a handful of friends on a cliff by the ocean, the waves crashing below. Emily wore a blue sundress. I wore jeans and a white blouse. We read vows we had written ourselves, vows full of laughter and scars and promises that sounded messy and human in ours. When we kissed, our friends cheered, and the seagulls scattered into the sky. And I realized something. This was never about a perfect love story. It was about a messy, painful, beautiful truth. That real love doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for approval. It doesn't disappear just because the world says it should. Emily once almost married a man to please everyone else. But now, standing hand in hand with me, she had chosen something far braver. She had chosen herself. She had chosen us. And for the first time, I knew we had finally made it home. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.